What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Game Time Live, the A show, the flagship show of the Game Time Network. It's going to be a great episode here for you guys today. Before we get going and I introduce our special guest here in this one, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors. Matt Gaddis, your local State Farm agent here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Big shout out to Matt Gaddis. And then another thank you to Wire to the Nines. If you need any low voltage work, make sure to check out our good friends at Wire to the Nines. And then last but not least, if you need some good food and some good times, make sure to head over to Bigsy's Sports Bar and Grill. If you need any food, if you want some wings, if you want a good burger, make sure you head over to Bigsy's. Me and Daryl, we're going to be heading over there in a couple weeks to get our grub here in a couple weeks at Bigsy's restaurant. But man, it's time to get into it. One of the biggest things we've been asked over the last couple of months as we've been ending college football season was, where are the interviews? Are we going to get more interviews? Where are the interviews at? Where you guys stop doing interviews? Well, we've got an interview/discussion for you here today. We are joined by Junior, the founder and owner of NAIA Hoops Report. And if you've played NAIA basketball in the last couple of years, you definitely know that account and you know who this man is right here. Junior, thanks for joining me here today. Thanks for joining us here for this episode of Game Time Live.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I didn't know that there was a long break between interview guests. I'd say I'm honored, but I'm also maybe not the best guest to have on after a long break. So
no. Some of our first interviews were NAIA coaches. I mean, we had Cascade Hoops Talk as our first official guest on the pod, and then he helped us get Scott Moore on. I believe that following week, or at least the week after, we had Scott Moore on. So anytime we start interviews back up, we always try to start it with what I love to do, which, after broadcasting IU East, is get as much NAIA love out there as we can. So I definitely want to start, Junior, with just this question. What got you what kind of got the origins of this account going for NAIA Hoops Report? How did it all start? And now, I mean, looking at where it is now, you're collaborating with all these different schools. You're almost like Red Zone at some points, getting down to the ending of games and getting them posted as they end. Talk about that journey for you and how this all got started.
Yeah, man, 7-8 years ago. Just to go back, I'm actually a former college basketball coach. Didn't actually coach in the NAIA. I just was JUCO down in Texas for a while, and had a lot of players that made it went to NAIA, and had a few play and win national championship games, and just was meeting with some friends, coaching friends in Kansas City during the national tournament, D1 national tournament back then. We saw what NAIA ball on the baseball side was doing, and the guy got brought up. And at the time, there was a lot more people that wanted to be involved. And I think that me just getting out of coaching with some health stuff and different variations, I just wanted to be around basketball still. And I think I had maybe the most time available to continue or to kind of drive it. And I always joke the first article we ever wrote had like 10 total people view it, and now we're, I just ran the numbers for our social media feeds, and we just crossed 3.1 million in the last 30 on Instagram, and we're right around 3.5 on Twitter. And I would love to grow it even more and do different stuff on different channels, but just kind of knowing where we started off, 8 years ago when we wanted to start this off and to where we're at now. It's been fun. I never would have dreamed that it would have gotten to this point, but it's also very cool. Not just from like our standpoint, from us and us personal, but just cool to see that many eyes on NAIA basketball. And I always tell people, our views are their views. And that's, I fully believe that us trying to get things out and the amount of attention it gets is, it's fun because it helps it grow NAIA basketball. And I just think it's such a great level of play that it deserves it. So it's just cool to see.
Can you talk about maybe that first moment where you maybe collaborated with the team on a post or something where it was like, oh man, this is really starting to grow and teams are starting to maybe not, I don't want to say take seriously, but it was just a matter of like, they want they want some sort of attention, and they know our account can help grow them a little bit.
Well, I think we had an advantage because we were the first, so like there wasn't anything going on. And so I think that especially early on, like, and we're not perfect by any means. Like we had some stuff early on that, that coaches would reach out to us. And I have more relationships now, obviously after 8 years than I did back then. But, we had people right away that were, hey, like, love to help out, or if we had something wrong. I'm trying to think like, I remember early on, unintentionally, we were putting out a list of, I believe, All-Americans and left out a conference. I can remember, and it wasn't, again, not intentional, just oversight as we posted it, and had a coach reach out and mention that, and I added it back to the article right away, and just some stuff like that, like early on, where people were obviously reading early on because we were the only ones there doing it, and then as we grew on social media and stuff, we really blew up, over COVID era. I think people, not being able to get out as much, during COVID, we were just trying to stay consistent. I think that's the one thing we've really done over the last 8 years, is just stay consistent with our coverage. And, we've tried to grow it, just trying to post every day, important things, but also, trying to stay positive. Like our big goal is to, we're not sports reporters. Like we're not trying to like break information, break news. We're not trying to, judge any late game situations. We're not trying to like, we're just trying to put out, as positive of a spin as we can on NAIA basketball and the teams in it and the coaches and players and programs. So that's just kind of where we started and how we grew. Is just people, we got the trust of people and coaches. And it, like I said, it just continued to grow and grow and grow.
Daryl, I will give you the floor to throw some of your first questions at Junior and kind of what he's about.
Junior, you talked about you previously coached, and then things happen and you want to stay in tune. When you were in coaching, what were some of the biggest challenges you had on a year over year with players interaction, and then talk about a little bit how that would compare to today?
It's funny. I have some of my best friends are in the D1 level now, and we talk quite often. And just I haven't coached since I think my last season was 2014, 2015. So it's been a decade now, and I can tell you that things have changed a lot. Back then, a lot of our stuff was, making sure kids didn't oversleep class, like just trying to, make sure that we had breakfast check-ins, trying to get kids out of bed early in the morning, and, doesn't stop them from going back to sleep, but, just small things were back then. We didn't have NIL, we didn't have, a lot of their kids were transferring, especially, we were JUCO, so we were obviously, getting kids in and getting kids out right away, but at the same time, like we didn't have what it is now. And I don't say that as a negative. I like NIL. I think that, there's obviously things that I think you could, fine tune and make better. But back then, all the stuff that I guess the small issues were definitely small and didn't affect the day-to-day operations as much as things do now. So I feel like I was blessed. I like I said, I've grown around basketball my entire life. My dad was a high school basketball coach, and for me, I just love the game and love the opportunities it gives people, not just from all walks of life. Like I've coached kids that were the first ones to graduate in their family. I've had kids that came from millionaire families. Like it's just cool to see the hodgepodge of people and players that come through and just have an impact on people's lives is fun for me. And that's the kind of where we wanted to grow from with this site, is just being in a position to help people. But, definitely from the coaching standpoint, being in that position was a lot of fun and something that I probably the main thing I missed the most from coaching.
Okay. Second part of that, you spoke a little bit ago about how you want to present a positive and a non-negative outlook for the schools, coaches, players that you cover. Now that's that's the damn opposite of ESPN, right? So what triggered you to go that side of the fence? Because we know drama sells, right? So what triggered you to do that, as opposed to the house kids of the NAIA?
Yeah, for me, I guess it just is me and my character. I guess I'm not a controversial person per se. So I kind of feel like that's just kind of who I am. We get breaking news information all the time that I can post, but it's just not my job. I don't feel like to post. I feel like it's the schools or whoever to post it. And so we kind of, if they ask us to post and repost, we definitely do it, but I'm not trying to be the first one to break anything or, things like that. For me, it was more important to build the relationships up. I thought that especially, looking back and how we've grown, I think we've got that trust level with coaches and players and things like that. And I think they, at the end of the day, like I'll just tell you, like last week, I haven't counted my games this week, but last week I watched about 5 games. Now that doesn't mean 40 minutes of every game, and I have multiple screens going, so like trying to catch different parts of different games sometimes too, especially when you kind of get a really good game, you start focusing on that one more. But for me, it was more about just building the relationship up. And I felt like if we stayed positive and highlighted everybody in that light, we would get that trust and trust level grow. And I think it has. It worked. It's something that's worked for us. It's a formula that's been successful for us. And I don't want to be in a position to put anybody in a bad position, I guess. So that's just kind of where we stand at.
And with that said, you said you hit something really nice. You've earned the trust of schools and coaches. And we had a quick conversation about my relative before we went on air. And I love that, right? As you said, we're trying to grow. We go over 1 year come April. We started off on, I think, on a cereal box and cans with wires, right? What would you say would be a great thing for us as a growing show? We're not just strictly obviously NAIA, but with that said, we're at this point versus last year when we started, a lot more NAIA. And one of the things we found is there's some damn good basketball being played in NAIA, and people don't realize that. And I've been tooting this horn, since, we got our relative on some months ago. And I just want to ask you, what would be that trigger? What would be something to say, man, this is something you guys can tap into to help out for sure?
I just think I'm a big believer in everything in life is relational. So like building those relationships up and continuing them and just growing them, I'm sure I'm not perfect. I'm sure we've had people on our show, and talk to people that, we may not follow back up with as much. And some of it's hard because we do have so many people, it's just tough to follow up with everybody. I will say, like, I don't know how many group chats I have with different coaches. And like, I have some with like 3 different coaches from 3 different head coaches from 3 different parts of the country. I have ones that are, just single coaches. I have I constantly have people, but it's relationships we've built up over the 8 years, that got us to that point. And it's something that I try to be follow up with. Now there's other schools I wish that we would do better of following up with. And it's sometimes just hard to, there's, I think 225 or something like that AI programs. It's hard to do with everybody, but it is a situation where like this past year, we do a preseason magazine every year. And this is the first year we try to do we did a page on every single program. And we sent off a questionnaire and we got to, I think 207 back of the 225.
That's awesome.
So it's just like, it's just something like for us, it was cool to do. It was a lot of work. It took up a lot of the summer. But at the same time, like it just, for us, it's just trying to grow relationships, trying to continue. And I think that's something that you guys, if I was in your guys' shoes, that make the most sense is like, just as you get people on and continue to, reach out, continue to, for me, like if somebody wins a big game or has a big week, following up, hey, even if it's a short text, like, hey, big week, congrats, or, even sometimes coaches, they just want to be a venting, they just want to vent to you, you just let them vent. That's what I do, let them vent and, talk them through it, get them off the try to calm them down a little bit and
the ledge, get them off the ledge.
Yeah, get them off the ledge a little bit. And at the end of the day, like, and I joke about the ledge, obviously, like it's just trying to build relationships and talking. And it's not always about basketball. Sometimes it's about life. I've gotten to know a lot of coaches and their families. And when we go to Kansas City every year, I feel like I meet new coaches and new coaches' wives, new kids, or kids of coaches, and it's just kind of cool to be in person at different events and meet different families and stuff as well.
Good deal. I like that. I like that. See, I see Isaiah's got you dropped up here. So I think he wants to tap in a little bit. Go ahead, Isaiah.
Well, I think one of the coolest things that you do every week after the week is wrapped up is the categories here. I think the categories that you guys do every week is so interesting to me. It's so cool. Can you talk about, how this got put together in the early goings and how much it's progressed thus far? Do coaches text you afterwards and be like, man, I don't know, maybe I should have got that spot? Or how much of a reaction does this generate on a week-to-week basis? Because I check it out every week.
It's actually something that I saw, we steal from everybody, like not just us, but like we as a society, we steal from other people, like it's very hard to come up with be the first one to an idea. And I saw a Division I account that had not the same categories, but like similar, like they just had this section, it was almost designed exactly like this. I changed the categories a little bit because like theirs was like, mid-major, low major, different stuff like that. Mid-major MVP, low major MVP, like, they had like stock risers, and we changed our categories too. We actually started this, I believe, in December of last year. After I saw it, I thought it would be a good way to do it. And it really has grown. Like I put out we do a Sunday nomination list. And I think last week alone, we had pushing 100 nominations across all the categories. So, awesome. Some of them are ones that I watch when I watch games, I'll mark down as potential. I have a list for each one of them, each category, and just kind of add people to list and stats to list. And then some of it are just coaches and players and different people, going. Obviously, you can see this one, Onion snubbed. I don't actually mind it. Like I want people to interact. Like it's, like there's so many buzzer beater. Onions is our buzzer beater category. It's Jim Nance, I believe it is the guy that if you ever watch a game of his, like if somebody hits a buzzer beater, he's like onions. And that's just kind of our buzzer beater winner of the week. And even our dunk of the week is like one of the hardest categories because they're like, I joke with people all the time. Like, I feel like sometimes people think that NAIA basketball is just a bunch of layups and like uncoordinated basketball players, and but the talent is so good at this level, and the dunks are so good at this level. The category that won that one, which I actually should have tagged week 15 on there. I noted, nice to see I forgot on that, but week 15 is our most recent one. But USAO broke a backboard. Matter of fact, they're making up their game. They broke the backboard on that dunk, and they're making up that game today. Yeah, they're making up that game later today. They I think it's like a 10-point game in the second half, and they're starting the game from that point of the backboard breaking. So kind of a weird situation on that one, but yeah, like it's just fun to kind of see not just the coaches that nominate, but we have parents, we have fans, we have players that nominate. And the coolest part about it too is like we have a lot of people who are starting to nominate people from other teams. Like that is the coolest part for me. Like we have coaches all the time that nominate other coaches for coach of the week or players that they played against. They're like, hey, like I won't mention any names, but like we had some guys like he's like I feel like Joe Smith should get the answer for this one, or get the MVP this week. He dropped 40 on us, whatever it may be, and it's just kind of cool to see where it's growing from last December. Like I said, it's a very popular post for us, but it's also one that like people take pride in, and I wish we could give everybody an award that gets nominated.
Yeah.
That's also part of the fun too, is like the discussion afterwards and some of the replies and, quote tweets and, even some of the messages I got. Like I got asked last week, again, I'm not going to mention any names, but somebody felt like their team should have gotten not even a coach. He was actually a player that asked if I actually watch games ever. And I told him, I'm going to take this in a nice way. Like to answer your question, I actually watched about roughly 65 games last week. So, it's just one of those things. I don't mind, like part of putting stuff out there, like people are going to judge it and people are going to do that. That's fine. That's part of that's part of the fun of it, the discussion aspect of it. And I want people to talk NAIA hoops at the end of the day. So again, I wish everybody could get an award each week.
Yeah. But they can't.
It's cool to see how much it's grown, but also like when you get 80 to 100 nominations in a week, it's hard to
narrow it down,
figure it out.
Hey, question for you. I'm gonna jump in real quick.
Yeah.
When you talked about the dunks and the breaking the backboard, you got to call it the Jerome Lane effect, man. That's out of Pittsburgh back in the early 90s. Jerome Lane from University of Pittsburgh. I think he was one of the first guys that broke a backboard in college hoops, right? So, then I was thinking Daryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder, right? I'm thinking nicknames for these dunks, right, as we go. So if you're using them, any of them, just send me a couple bucks on the side. Nothing too big.
Yeah.
But that's fun, though, right? That's fun to talk about.
Well, even our dunk of the week last week, Jesse Van Kelsbeek from Northwestern Iowa, who's actually he's going to be a Player of the Year finalist. He threw it off the backboard to himself and went up and dunked it in the half court, not even in the full court. He got stuck at the free throw line off a drive and didn't have anyone to throw to, so he threw it to himself off the backboard and went and dunked it. Like, just stuff like that is like, just highlights the talent level of the NEI and just to go off that too. Like, we currently, and I'm very careful on how I say this because I'm not trying to promote our NEI guys to go Division I by any means. But to highlight how good NEI is, we currently have 74 players at the Division I level that played NEI basketball. So that just goes to show you how good of basketball, and it happens every year, right? Like it's not just last year. And some of these guys, have been playing NEI or playing D1 basketball for 2 or 3 years now, but it just the talent level at this level, it just continues to rise, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and then even for me, being at IU East these last couple of years, it has been, getting to see this level on at the floor and watching games week to week. And obviously, IU East hasn't been in the rankings in the last couple of years, but we've come through and seen, Point Park was a great team a couple of years back, and they really did well that year. And even this year, there's been a lot of River State's conference teams that have gone in, got big wins, and are continuing to roll. And so to see the ability at this level, and we've talked about it on this show, how with NIL, some of these players that maybe should be at the D1 level have trickled down to this level and are showing why they should be at that D1 level. And it's been an amazing 4 years. And even, this year, we got the opportunity to check out Grace College at Gamebridge Fieldhouse when they took on Michigan Dearborn. And with the way Coach Scott Moore talked about his team in the offseason, I would have never thought this team would be – I knew they'd be ranked because they've been ranked the last couple of years, but the way he was talking, it made it sound like, we may be ranked, we may not be ranked, and here they are at the top of the polls all season long. So I wouldn't be doing it justice if we didn't talk about our good friend Scott Moore and Grace College a little bit. So I guess I'll ask you this question. How has your relationship with Scott Moore developed all the course of these years? Because, man, he is one of the nicest guys we've had on this show, and he's always willing to come on. He's such a great guy to talk to.
Yeah. Again, one of those relationships that I didn't have previously. So it's cool to jump in. But, for me, it's like fun talking basketball too, not just like NAIA basketball, but fun talking hoops in general. And, he's actually one that I'm actually in a group message with his brother and him. Like Marcus is a former NAIA great as well. And it's just one of those situations where, like they're one of the many messages I get, but he is fun to talk basketball with, and cool too. Like he's the one that, we've gotten to know family and stuff like that too. Like, we asked how my daughter was born, I think a couple weeks after or before his last child. So, just kind of checking in on, mamas and kids and just trying to make sure everybody's, healthy and safe and doing everything. And just kind of cool to, like I said, we have several coaches and messages, but Scott, and I will tell you, a lot of what you just said is coach speak too. Like, I think he knew he was going to be good coming into this year. Like, like I'm sure he had a little bit of, because of how young they are, he was probably like, hesitant a little bit to say it. But I think I got a text message like a week before the season start from him that said, and we joked about it when he joined me on my podcast, but he joked about in a text message a week before the season. He's like, I think we're actually going to be pretty good. And I knew at that point that they were, when he says it, like he means it. So like, he's usually a little bit more reserved. So I knew at that point Grace is going to be pretty good.
And man, they've been absolutely on fire. And, I think when we did our interview with him, there was one team that he mentioned that he was a little worried about, and it was Huntington, right? And obviously Huntington was the team that got that big win at Grace College. And I think it was really cool when we had Corey on because, Corey was like, I'm going to miss that Grace game the most out of all the games when I was at Huntington. So to see Huntington, still be very competitive, get that win over Grace when they're riding this wave of momentum of winning. But I think for Grace also, it kind of gets that monkey off your back of, we're undefeated a little bit. And it just kind of makes you really dial in on the tournament and getting to the ultimate goal. Because, it's like the Warriors beating the Bulls' record and getting to 73-9 is great. But if it doesn't mount into a championship, what is it all for at that point?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Crossroads League, very, very good league. Yeah. Indiana, great state for basketball.
We're decent.
Yeah, it's Huntington's got maybe as many top 25 wins as anybody, or throughout the year. And I know not everybody's still ranked, but they've got some big wins across the year. Very dangerous group. I think that it'd be very interesting to see if they host in Platte, because if they get a host bid, I could see them winning 2 games and going to Kansas City as well. But it's just kind of fun to, especially with a lot of the turnover, right? Because Huntington lost a lot of players. Grace has lost several players the past 2 years. Indiana Wesleyan's got probably the most returns, but they got a lot of new pieces as well. Obviously that game last night, I don't know if you guys caught the game yesterday, but one of the better NAIA games throughout the year. Just a lot of great basketball between the two teams there. But Bethel out of Indiana is playing really, really well. I know they're coming off a tough loss, but and then Taylor, the big surgeons this year, and I think that they're a team that got hot early, won 12 in a row at one point, and then I know they've had some losses between them, but they're a team too that I think that come tournament time will be very dangerous.
Question to pivot, continuing with that, friend of the show, Josh Jones, assistant coach at North Dakota State University. How much have you taken a look at them over the last couple of months? And they started off a little rough. They slow start last night. They won going away. I think they're 21-6, or 22-6 right now. What's your take on North Dakota State and how they're doing as well too?
North Dakota State, I'll be honest with you, I don't follow a lot of Division I basketball. I used to a lot more. I had season tickets to Drake. I've been to several Iowa State games, being an Iowa guy here, but I follow the division, the NAIA guys that are in Division I and try to follow their stuff. But don't get a lot of chance. And even some of the coaches, we got several coaches at the NAIA level that make it to Division I and chit chat with them still from time to time. But Yeah, to answer your question, I wouldn't know. I very, very seldomly get to watch a Division I basketball game. So
No, that's okay. I was just, a little shameless plug for our guy. I know
yeah,
they're coming along, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a head coach, maybe starting in NAIA next couple of years. He's a really sharp guy.
yeah. No, we got a lot of former Division I assistants that are also head coaches at this level. We got guys that, like I said, are former division or former NAI guys that are even head coaches at the Division I level now too. So it's just kind of cool to always see that the ups and downs of coaches and players and all that. So
nice, like that. Isaiah, you can go ahead.
Okay, I was going to ask Junior. One of my questions for you was NIL. Right, we've talked about NIL a lot on this show, and especially when we have NAIA coaches on or former players. We all, especially in these last couple of years, and I know you not only have you seen it from probably like the online places, but also in person. How much has NIL benefited the NAIA? As we talked about, you kind of see that trickle down effect, especially like some top end high school players not getting the looks that they should be from these D1 schools or NCAA schools. So they come to the NAIA level and, they grow the sport. And not only that, some even stick around and play their years at the NAIA level and then go overseas and do whatever overseas. But how has NIL affected the NAIA in a positive way and maybe even a negative way from your perspective?
Yeah, I'll actually start off with talking about the COVID fifth year. I think that was the bigger impact, and that's what started a lot of it. We had guys like Riley Minix out of Southeastern Florida who with the COVID fifth year, they graduated from NAI and went and got an extra year of playing, extra year of eligibility, and went on and played. He played at Morehead State, and they went on to the national tournament, and he was a big reason for that. Kind of how one of those low major players in the NCAA tournament, kind of gets a big following because they're playing good basketball in March, and he was one of them. And he actually just this week he signed his 2A deal with the Cavs G League squad. So he's a guy that was on a 2A with the Spurs, but ended up now with the Cavs. And just guys like that got the opportunity to play a fifth year at Division I, and were very, very good. And there's a handful of guys that follow that path, but the early path. And then when they started doing, the last couple of years, they even had, that fifth year rule implemented, and doesn't sound like it. This year's senior class is going to get it, but I would tell you that all the players that were able to go and have success at the Division I level from the NAI level, they're the ones that kind of set the tone for what it is now. And now you're starting to see, some of that after effect with the NIL. The NIL, to answer your question, carried over into what now is, everybody's trying to buy, the best players. And, sometimes that's even NAI guys. I know several of the NAI guys, that are making, anywhere from 50 to I know up to 300K this year. It's just, you're not going to pass up the money, and obviously the opportunity to play Division I either. But at the same time, like it's taking players from the NAI, but also it's opened up doors for younger guys. I know, you mentioned Grace earlier. I know Grace. I know teams like College of Idaho, teams like that have gotten some really good freshmen coming in because they are getting overlooked. Or, I'm not one of those guys that thinks that high school players don't get the opportunity to play, Division I anymore. I think if you're good enough, coaches find you. Like that. That's just, I'm a big believer in that. But at the same time, there's only a certain amount of scholarships at the Division I level, so like the trickle down is going to happen. And I think that as people have seen the success of NAI players, like obviously there's junior college, obviously there's Division II, there's Division III, like there's good talent at every level.
Yeah.
It's just about once you realize you're not going to get that NIL money at a bigger level, and some of these other levels have NIL too. I'm not going to say that, but like not as much NIL. And once you start figuring out, hey, I'm not going to go make 100K. Like I'm not getting those kind of offers. Like now all of a sudden it's opening doors for freshmen to be like, okay, where can I go play at? What is my best chance of playing? And there's several coaches that who have at the NAIA level, especially, that have adapted to, the changing environment. I think if as long as they're adapting, you're going to be successful. Like you can't fight the trend, and I think those that unfortunately are fighting the trend a little bit are losing some of that success level, and those that are kind of adapting are the ones that are finding the success. And you can go find players like. Now, we have Division I guys that come down and play NAIA all the time too. Like it's going both directions, but at the same time, there's a lot of freshmen that are, realizing that the money at the next level is not there, and now they're coming to play NAIA for a couple of years, getting that resume, built up. And I related a lot to, like, we see a lot of players go overseas and play, who start their pro career, not just in NAIA, but even Division I players that go start their career at overseas. And then they go to the G League, because of the money, like trying to get closer to go play in the NBA. And then, like, they get called up to the NBA, but it might take them, 2-3 years to get to that point, and that's like Kyle Mangus, two-time NAIA Player of the Year at Indiana Wesleyan. Like, he went overseas for his first 3 years. Now he's on a 2-way contract with the Spurs. Like, different journeys are going to lead to different things, but, like, sometimes you have to go get noticed elsewhere before you get that called up. And it is true, like, Division I's do want older guys because, like, they're at the end of the day, like, they're paying for money. It's their money and their job. They don't want to get fired over a freshman kid that they paid a lot of money to. And again, if the freshman is good enough, sure. But at the same time, like, not every freshman that we saw go Division I before is getting that opportunity. And now it's opening doors at the NAIA level for a lot of these great youngsters that we're seeing play at this level right now.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think for this level, there's a lot of guys even just in the Indiana area where, at IU East, we've got a couple guys where it's like, man, obviously we're not having the best season, but it's like, man, if they stay for another year or two and they get polished, we could really be a competitor in the conference in the next couple of years, or even next year, just that little bit of experience at this level. Because I think for a lot of these freshmen that come from high school to this level and say that, they thought they were going to go to NCAA Division II or something like that, they get to this level and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to come in and I'm going to kill and I'm going to get mine. And, they get there and they play this senior guard or junior guard that's been at this level for a while, or big man. I think, guard, I think when it's a senior guard or a junior guard on a freshman guard, I've seen a lot of freshman guards play really well in those first couple games. But I think the biggest difference for me is the big men. When you have a veteran big man on your team compared to a freshman center or even a sophomore center that doesn't have, like, the muscle built onto him yet, I mean, the difference in the experience and just the IQ is so off the charts, and it is so different. And it just takes levels of experience to get to that IQ level to be successful and to truly compete at this level in your conference, or let alone trying to win the national title.
Yeah, I think that well, first off, bigs are the first ones recruited always. So if you're a good big, it's going to be hard for you to fall through the gaps.
And it's hard to get bigs at this level. I think that's the hardest position from my eyes, because at IU East, I mean, we had some okay centers, but no real great center, I feel like, in a long time.
Yeah, I think the bigs at this level are ones that are developed, early. And you take a chance on a high school kid, or you get a transfer for whatever reason, has to come in the eye, and we've seen a lot of good bigs from that route too. But certainly high school bigs are you're usually taking a chance on an under-recruited kid, and then you're just trying to develop them, and that's most cases. Or they come to your campus and they're better than you think they are, and that always is a good thing too. Like, they show up on your campus and you're like, okay, that kid is much better than what we were thinking. So that's just kind of the way it works out sometimes. But it's, like I said, the recruiting at this level is always an interesting story. There's so many different ways to win at every level, but, like, especially in the NAIA level, like, 4-year kids, obviously everybody would love to have them, but even teams with transfers, that take heavy transfers are very successful too. And I'm a big believer in, you got to be you. And, some guys like to coach, other guys don't like to coach, like, it's just that type of way. And I think you have to, as a coach, you have to know your identity and who can respond to you the best, and then recruit to your style. So that's just my opinion on that.
Daryl,
question.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just about to say.
So I want to have you map out. A lot of our viewers aren't aware of how the breakdown is in the tournament for NAIA. Yes, we know the finals are in Kansas City, but break that. Give us your bracket. Be our bracketologist and share with our viewers a little bit more about this time of season, because it's there. We're getting to the NAIA madness.
Yeah, so we've had 6 teams already clinch an auto bid. Not every conference champion at the NAIA level gets a auto bid, regular season champion anyway. So every league kind of has their own thing. Now any league with 10 or more teams is automatic 2-bid league. So most of those, I'm speaking from a high level because there are some, again, leagues that do different things, but from most leagues, it's a regular season champion and then the conference tournament champion who get the auto bids. There'll be 35 auto bids, which leaves the remaining 34 or 20? Yeah, 34 teams, or sorry, 29 teams. The remaining, my math was a bit bad there, but 29
That's
teams.
okay.
29 at-large spots. It's just one of those situations where, so we'll have 64 teams, just like I know the NCAA has 68 teams, but 64 teams that make the tournament. And we have 16 schools. It used to be schools and neutral sites, but everything is on campus now for the opening rounds, and it's just 4 teams that meet. So like if it's 1, 16, 8, and 9 seeds would all meet typically at the 1 seed. Sometimes there's some 5, 6, 7 seeds that host. Depending on location and different stuff. But yeah, so the opening 2 rounds, you got to win 2 games to get to Kansas City, and then the final 16 teams meet at Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay. What are the dates? Give us the dates there, and we'll post those as well too.
Yeah, so opening round. Oh, I should probably have this up, but I can't.
Sorry, I put you on. Sorry, but I just wanted to make sure.
You're good. You're good. I think I have it up right now. So basically, the opening round of the tournament is the first and second round is March 13th and 14th. And then the Kansas City for the final round of 16 all the way through the national championship game is March 19th through the 24th.
So the finishing up on that, 16 teams, one side, kind of like the old school back in the NCAA tournament way back. How does that work from a crowd perspective? I'm guessing crowds are better because you're kind of descending on one location versus spread out and that type of thing. How does that work crowd wise, and what are the crowds like in Kansas City and that final 16?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, most of the fans, I would say, buy like the week long pass and they'll watch even if your team's not playing, they'll just go watch the entire sessions and stuff. But I mean, when you have Midwest teams there, the crowds are usually packed. I mean, there's teams like College of Idaho, who's won 2 national titles in the last 5 years. They bring a big fan base. You got Langston, who being an HBCU, they travel in droves to go watch them play. So it kind of just depends. I mean, there's other schools, to be honest with you, that I've seen that have 10 or 15 fans, but as a whole, there's a lot of people that are just there watching basketball too. Like a lot of people in the Kansas City area. The NAIA does such a great job of getting sponsors and different stuff in there. Like, so you have different businesses, and then they always tend to have one session where they kind of have all the kids from a field trip from different schools come in and they get loud and cheer on. Usually they pick a school and they all get together, but it's just kind of a fun, stretch of days, from that Wednesday to the Tuesday on the championship, where they have a lot of different, again, depending on where you're from and your program, a lot of fans show up. There's also just a lot of just generic college basketball fans that just sit there and I mean, they have courtside tickets. There's been people, I think last year, they had a guy that has been there going for like 60 years or something like that. So, just a lot of cool history behind it as well.
Okay. Man, Darren, we got to go at some point.
Yeah, that's why I want to get more information, right?
We got to go.
Hey, we may have to reach out to our friend up north to see if we can get some love or something.
It's actually so in the past, before when it was two divisions, 32 teams in Division One met in Kansas City, and 32 teams used to meet in actually Point Lookout, Missouri, but then it got moved to Sioux City, Iowa for a couple of years. It's I know there's a lot of people that would love to have 32 teams back. You play your opening round game, at the higher seed host it, but then a lot of people would love to go 32 teams back inside Municipal Auditorium. And it used to be you had to win 5 games in 6 days to win a national championship, which is just maddening. It's still 4 games in 6 days now, but I know there's a lot of people out there that would love to see the 32 teams back at one site.
No, it would be that. Yeah, we got to go at some point. I got to ask you, have you gotten to talk, or have you met our buddy Billy D over at Cascade Hoops Talk?
Yeah, so I see Billy D at the national tournament last 2 years. I think I've talked to him in person. So yeah, great dude, and obviously does a lot of good stuff out in the Pacific Northwest out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, he's been awesome for me. He helped us get Scott Moore on the show the first time around, and then Scott's came on ever since. I gotta ask you, I know you got a lot of relationships with the schools, so if you can, heading into the tournament, who are your, I won't say give me your favorites to win it all, right? Because you talk to all these coaches and schools. Who are your, let's say, top 5 teams to look out for in the tournament, whether that's the favorites or maybe teams that we're not paying attention to enough?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is going to sound like a coach speak or whatever. I actually really believe this. I believe that this year, more than any other year, there's probably about 15 to 20 teams that can win it. It really is going to come down to matchups. There are some teams that I think that if they get the right matchup, could make a very deep run. But also, if they get some of the teams that have given them trouble. Yeah. And not just the teams that they've played, but if there's a style play that I'm not going to call out any teams, but there's some teams that I think that struggle, against teams that really defend well. They like to score, they like to play fast pace, and if they get slowed down, I'd be very interested to see kind of how they play, and if they can win, and they may not play a team like that until the round, we can't say Elite Eight, we have to say round of either the quarterfinals or semifinals or whatever. But, there's just a lot of teams that I think that are similar like that. A lot of it is because we have a lot of youth and a lot of new teams and stuff. I will say that I think Freed Hardeman is probably the favorite. They're rolling right now. I think 22 straight wins. The graphic you have up, I think, is a little old because they're number 1 in the country.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, but they're number 1 in the country. They've won, I believe, 22, straight games. They're in a Mid-South conference that's traditionally one of the best, if not the best, conference in the league. And for them to already win the conference championship running away just shows, how good they've been. They won a national title 3 years ago or 2 years ago. So they're just 2 years away from a national championship. They went to, I believe, the Elite Eight last, or I can't say Elite Eight, the semi or the quarterfinals last year, I believe. There's just a team that I think is well coached. I would say, it's probably in those rankings that are up, the top 5 teams are probably the favorites, and then it's the field behind them. But again, I really think that there's this year more than I have in past years, where there are some teams that if they get the right matchups, I think it would not surprise me to see them in the national championship game.
Awesome. And as we kind of begin to wrap up here, Daryl, I do want to give you a chance to ask some of your final questions, and then we'll kind of wrap up.
No, I love your passion about this, man. This isn't the glitter and glitz, right? NAIA isn't that. So it says a lot about you, as you spoke about earlier, from your passion about what you're doing, also the integrity piece. What advice would you give, not just to us, but someone who's a basketball junkie, but does not believe or have seen the end results and some of the NAIA like you have in NCAA, what would you share with those people? And a lot of those are our viewers, big, D1 conversations. NAIA, not so much. I want you to talk to them, look in the camera like Isaiah did when he said that Indiana would lose to Oregon early in the season. He was wrong. I want you to eyeball the camera, Junior, and share with our viewers why they need to wake up and take a look at the NAIA.
Yeah, for me, like I'm a big believer in that. So like people look at it too much, like too many people look at it as like the levels as they are. So they look at it as Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA. And the truth of it is that they're not as much separated as there are levels within the levels, and those levels overlap each other. So like we see the NAIAs beat Division I's every single year. Now, can they go win a conference? That's different conversation they have. But like we are very comparable to the Division II level. Like
yes.
Again, like I think the elite Division IIs can go play it, go compete with like mid majors. So like I'm not sitting there saying like like the elite NAIA programs, like they are very, very good. And that's where I would start with it, to answer your question, is like go watch those elite programs, go watch the top 25 programs, like go watch the really good basketball at this level. And there's teams outside the top 25 that are very good too. I'm not saying that, but like I think that there's a lot of people that unfortunately, just like every other level of basketball, like there are some bad teams at every level too. Like, and unfortunately, I think that some people, we live in a society, in a world, and I'll just say like we judge every group by the extremes, whether that's the low side of the extreme or the high side. I truly believe that. And really, I think that there's some unfortunate people that, you may see a player from your conference who goes and signs with NAIA, or you may go watch a local NAIA that, unfortunately may not be very good, or maybe a team that like, is in a rebuild or whatever the case may be. And they judge based off of that and not over the core of what NAIA basketball is. And I think that's some of the conversations I've had with people. I don't want to take too long to answer this question because I could probably talk about it all day long. But it's one of those situations where you can't just judge based off of a game you watch. Like if I go watch, a low major basketball game between a 2-20 team and a 5-20 team, like I'm not going to leave there thinking it was very good basketball. And I think you could go do that at every level. Now, if I go watch, the elite teams play, we had Iowa State, Kansas here in Iowa yesterday, and speaking of your Pacers, I'm a big Halliburton fan too, but it's just one of those things where like you can find great basketball at every level too, and I think that if you go watch the great level or the elite and great teams at the NAIA, you'll leave there with, oh man, this level is much better than I thought it was. So
okay. No, I definitely appreciate that for sure. And one of my guys that's in a lot of my groups, Corey, says salute to you for sure. He's a junkie. He's like us. He wants to see it all. So, we're going to put your information on our page, share it with everybody. And we want to boost you up as well. And definitely from my perspective, this isn't your last time on the Game Time. So we're going to spend some time for sure.
Always happy to talk some NAIA hoops. So
no, it's been awesome, and I think our goal, this summer is, we've got some people on the NBA side that we want to get back on the show, but we definitely want to expand our NAIA college reach, right? Having Corey Alford on was nice because he was at Huntington, now he's at Oral Roberts. Having Scott Moores on, but we want to get some people from Indiana Tech, Indiana Wesleyan, and even outside of the Indiana area, we want to get the Arizona Christians, those top schools in the NAIA, and put them on a platform, because like you just said, they can go out and they can compete with some of those D1 schools at the D1 level in NCAA basketball. Junior, it was awesome having you on. I really do appreciate it. I've been following your content since I got to IU East. It took a while to get you on the show, but I knew once we started getting interviews back these last couple of weeks and we were planning this out, I said, I think I know who I want to get first. And your page and your following came to mind. So thank you for joining us today. We truly do appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me on, and I hope with everybody wanting guest speakers back, I hope I lived up to that. And again, I'm always here to answer questions, and and talking NAIA hoops. So I'm always here to help get people on or come back on myself.
Awesome.
Definitely
awesome,
appreciate
awesome.
it for sure.
Well, folks, we want to remind you that we've got plenty of content on the channel. As always, make sure to check out Cott's Corner. Daryl uploaded a new episode a couple days ago. Me and one of my good friends that does photography around the Indianapolis area, we talked some NBA. And then, of course, folks, later on tonight, I will be recapping the Daytona 500 on Game Time After Hours. Go watch the Daytona 500. Hopefully it doesn't get rained out. They're calling for a rain, so hopefully it doesn't get rained out. We'll see what happens. But folks, that is going to do it. Thank you for everyone in the chat that commented and is watching the show. We'll see you guys in a couple days for another episode of Game Time Live presented by the Game Time Network. We'll see you guys soon.